Have you ever felt it? A tremor in the fabric of the world, a faint, discordant hum beneath the noise of our lives, a sense that a great, ancient seal is weakening, and that something vast and terrible, long imprisoned, is beginning to stir. What if I told you this feeling is not a mere fantasy, but an echo of a truth inscribed in the most sacred texts of humanity? A truth about a barrier built at the edge of the world, a wall not just of iron and molten copper, but of divine decree, holding back a tide of chaos that has clawed at its confines for millennia. This is the story of Gog and Magog, Yajuj and Majuj, names that whisper of apocalypse, of a force of nature so corrupting, so voracious, that a legendary king was commanded to raise a mountain between them and the rest of mankind. For centuries we have asked, where is this wall? Who are these people? Are they a forgotten tribe, a hidden nation, or something far more terrifying, a symbol of the chaos brewing within the human heart itself? The mystery is not just in some forgotten corner of the globe. It is a question about the very nature of our reality and the fragility of the order we take for granted. Join me as we journey to the forgotten frontiers of history and prophecy to seek the prison of Gog and Magog, and to understand why, with every passing day, the sound of their scratching grows ever louder. Our journey begins not in a library, but at the furthest reaches of the known world, in the footsteps of a mighty and righteous king. The Quran calls him Dhul-Qarnayn, the two-horned one, a title shrouded in mystery, signifying his dominion over East and West. He was not a conqueror driven by greed, but a servant of the divine, traveling the earth to establish justice. His travels took him to the rising of the sun and to its setting, until he came to a place between two great mountains, a pass that was the only gateway to the lands beyond. There, he found a people who could barely understand his speech. They lived in constant, abject terror. "O Dhul-Qarnayn," they pleaded through interpreters. "Indeed, Gog and Magog are great corruptors in the land, so may we assign for you a tribute that you might make between us and them a barrier." These were not ordinary marauders they feared. The texts describe Yajuj and Majuj as a force of utter consumption, a multitude so vast that when they drink from a river, they leave it dry for those who follow. A people who swarm down from every height, devouring everything in their path, plants, animals, and even each other. They were the embodiment of fasad, corruption, decay, the unraveling of all that is good and orderly in the world. They represented a life devoid of purpose beyond consumption and destruction. Dhul-Qarnayn, seeing their plight, was moved not by the promise of tribute, but by his divine duty. "That in which my Lord has established me is better than your tribute," he declared. "But assist me with strength, and I will make between you and them a dam." He did not build a simple wall of stone. He commanded them to bring him blocks of iron, filling the gap between the two mountains. Then he ordered them to light fires and blow with bellows until the iron glowed red-hot. Finally, he called for molten copper to be poured over the structure, sealing it into one solid, impenetrable mass. It became a barrier that they, Gog and Magog, could neither scale nor penetrate. And when his great work was done, Dhul-Qarnayn did not take credit for himself. He stood back and proclaimed, "This is a mercy from my Lord. But when the promise of my Lord comes, he will make it level, and the promise of my Lord is ever true." This incredible narrative from Surah Al-Kahf in the Quran is not an isolated tale. It reverberates through the prophetic traditions of Judaism and Christianity. In the book of Ezekiel, the prophet is given a vision of a future time, an age of peace, when God's people are living securely. It is then that a fearsome leader, Gog of the land of Magog, will arise. He is described as assembling a vast coalition of nations from the uttermost parts of the north, an army like a storm cloud covering the land. This is not a mere political conflict. It is a spiritual confrontation of the highest order. God himself declares through Ezekiel, "I will bring you against my land, that the nations may know me, when I shall be sanctified in you, O Gog, before their eyes." The prophecy foretells a climactic battle, where divine intervention will bring about the utter destruction of Gog's horde, a moment that will reveal God's power to the entire world. Centuries later, the vision reappears in the Christian book of Revelation. After a 1,000-year reign of peace, the ultimate adversary, Satan, is released from his prison. And what is his first act? He will go out to deceive the nations in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, and to gather them for battle. In number, they are like the sand on the seashore. Here, Gog and Magog have transcended any single tribe or nation. They are the sum total of all forces aligned against the divine, a global rebellion at the end of time. They march across the breadth of the earth, surrounding the camp of God's people, only to be consumed by fire from heaven. In all three traditions, Islamic, Jewish, and Christian, the story arc is hauntingly similar. A chaotic, overwhelming force is contained, either by a physical barrier or a divine timeline. They are a sign of the end, their release marking the final cataclysmic chapter of human history before the final judgment. For centuries, theologians, explorers, and mystics have been haunted by a single question: where is this physical barrier? Countless theories have been proposed. Some pointed to the Great Wall of China, a monumental effort to hold back nomadic hordes. Others looked to the Caucasus Mountains, with its narrow passes like the Darial Gorge, known historically as the Gates of Alexander. Ancient Syrian legends, in fact, conflated Dhul-Qarnayn with Alexander the Great and placed the construction of his gate in this very region. Still others have suggested remote regions in Central Asia, beyond the Himalayas, in lands of perpetual ice and shadow. But as our maps filled in, and the world's hidden corners were revealed, no such wall of iron and copper was ever found. This has led many to a deeper, more profound understanding. What if the wall is not meant to be found on any map? The great mystic and scholar Ibn Arabi suggested that while the wall may have a physical reality, its true significance is metaphysical. He saw Gog and Magog as representing the agitated, chaotic forces of the lower soul, the untamed, consumptive human ego. Dhul-Qarnayn, in this reading, is the spiritual intellect, the higher self guided by divine light. The two mountains are the body and the spirit. The wall he builds, therefore, is the Sharia, the divine law, the spiritual discipline, the path of remembrance and self-control that contains our base desires and prevents them from running rampant and corrupting our lives. Every day, Gog and Magog, our own greed, our anger, our heedlessness, scratch and claw at this wall. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, once said that they dig at the wall every day until they are about to break through. Then their leader says, "Go back, you will break through it tomorrow." But when they return by God's will, the wall is as strong as it was before. This continues until their appointed time, when their leader will finally say, "Go back, you will break through it tomorrow, if God wills, inshallah." Because they attach their efforts to the divine will, they will return the next day to find the wall as they left it, and they will finally break free. This teaches us a powerful lesson. Even chaos is ultimately subject to divine permission, but it also teaches us that the wall is held in place by our submission to that same will. When our collective spirituality weakens, when we forget God in our plans, the wall crumbles. This brings the mystery of Gog and Magog crashing into our modern world. Look around us. Do we not see a world that is swarming down from every slope, consuming without thought? We devour the planet's resources, leaving rivers of plastic in our oceans and scars on the land. Our digital technologies, designed to connect us, often create swarms of anonymous anger and misinformation. Our economic systems demand endless growth, a kind of consumption that, like Gog and Magog, leaves the well dry for those who come after. Is this not facade on a global scale? We have, in many ways, become the very force we were meant to be protected from. The barrier is not just a physical structure in a distant land. It is the moral and spiritual restraint that separates civilization from chaos. And it is cracking. So, what is the spiritual lesson for us, the inheritors of this profound and terrifying prophecy? It is that the ultimate battle against Gog and Magog is an internal one. The wall must be rebuilt, brick by brick, within our own hearts. How do we do this? First, we must recognize the two mountains within ourselves, the mountain of our physical needs and the mountain of our spiritual aspirations. The path of wisdom lies in creating a harmonious barrier between them, not to extinguish our needs, but to channel them with purpose and restraint, guided by divine principles. This is the iron of discipline. Second, we must pour the molten copper of sincere faith and love over this structure. Discipline without love becomes brittle and oppressive. But when our self-control is sealed with a deep love for the Creator and compassion for His creation, it becomes a flexible, unbreakable shield. This is the practice of dhikr, of remembrance. When you feel the chaotic swarm of anger, anxiety, or greed rising within you, you remember God. That remembrance is a block of iron placed back into the wall. When you choose compassion over judgment, patience over haste, gratitude over endless wanting, you are pouring the molten copper that seals the cracks. The story of Gog and Magog is not a tale to inspire passive fear, but a call to active spiritual vigilance. We are all guardians of the wall. Every choice we make either reinforces it or chips away at its foundation. The people who pleaded with Dhul-Qarnayn were terrified and helpless. But he did not simply save them. He commanded them, "Assist me with strength." He empowered them to participate in their own salvation. Likewise, we are not meant to simply wait for the end. We are called to be agents of mercy and order in a world teetering on the brink of chaos. We are called to build barriers of kindness in our communities, build walls of integrity in our work, build dams of wisdom in our families. Each act of selfless service, each moment of quiet prayer, each word of truth spoken against a tide of falsehood is another layer added to the great barrier that protects the soul of humanity. The promise of the Lord is ever true. The wall will one day fall, and the final test will come. But until that day, our sacred duty is to build. And so, the ancient mystery finds its answer not on a map, but in the mirror. Gog and Magog are trapped behind the wall of divine law and human spiritual discipline. They are the potential for chaos that exists in the world and within every human soul, held in check by the mercy of God. But their prison is not eternal, and its integrity depends on us. We have journeyed through the sacred texts, walked with a legendary king, and peered into the abyss of prophecy, only to find that the frontier between order and chaos runs directly through our own hearts. The tremors we feel are real. The scratching at the gate is growing louder. The great unraveling is not a distant future event. It is a present daily choice. The question is not where Gog and Magog are, but where we stand in relation to them. Will we be those who, through heedlessness and consumption, weaken the barrier and invite corruption into our world? Or will we be those who, like Dhul-Qarnayn, answer the call to assist with strength? Will we be the builders, the guardians, the ones who reinforce the walls with the iron of discipline and seal them with the copper of sincere faith. The promise of the Lord is true, and a great mercy has been given to us, the knowledge, the guidance, and the strength to hold back the tide. But for how long? The answer to that lies in the choices we make today. If this reflection touched your heart and expanded your understanding, join our community for more journeys in search of the truth hidden in history and the human soul. On our channel, we explore the great questions of life. We believe that the wisdom we revive from ancestral sources can strengthen your spirit. Your support is vital. We ask that you subscribe, share, like, and comment. This helps us reach more seekers of truth. Your feedback inspires us. May peace and light be with all of you. May we find wisdom and strength in our journey. Until the next video,